Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the MarketSite studio in Times Square, New York City, we have Vinay Ravuri, founder and CEO of EdgeQ, to discuss the 5G ecosystem and the plans for future growth. It is great to have you with us, Vinay. Welcome to TradeTalks.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's talk about the history of cellular technology. We've been through 2G, 3G, 4G, and of course this highly anticipated 5G. What makes 5G so transformative and a strategic vital importance around the globe?
Yeah, so like you said, 2G, 3G, 4G, they're primarily meant for cell phones, like for talking on the phone. And 5G has two aspects. The evolutionary part, which is just making the cell phone technology better so you can, better coverage and stuff like that. The other part of it is the revolutionary part, which is to power what's called IoT devices, smart devices, so that you could put them on a network with highly reliable and low latency communication. So like things like robots, cameras, drones. People talk about remote surgery. Those are out in time, but this is technology that was limited to wired stuff in the past. Now wireless can do things like that, and that's what makes 5G very interesting.
So this is what we take for granted, like our Ring apps and all the other apps that control everything in the home these days.
That's right.
Leverages 5G technology.
That's right, yeah.
We often hear the term democratization of 5G. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, people use different terms for that, but basically, Wi-Fi is pretty open, available to everyone, and it's cheap, and anyone can just go and implement it themselves. Cellular hasn't been that way, particularly because spectrum costs money, and there's few companies that sort of regulate things and own things there. 5G sort of brings these two technologies together, closer to Wi-Fi, both in terms of what it costs, but also the ease of deployment. In terms of spectrum, it can operate in these what's called NRU, unlicensed bands, where you don't have to own spectrum. So these are the things that make 5G very interesting and democratizes the
What are the core technology fundamentals that necessitates 5G?
So there are several things. One of them is there's just more spectrum that's been added. Spectrum is necessary. Basically, that's sort of the bandwidth or the bands that you transmit on. So you need that. Think of them like highway lanes or something. So you have more lanes to transmit on. So that's one core technology. The more interesting is that the protocol itself has been quite modified from 4G to 5G, where you could guarantee a certain type of latencies and certain type of reliability. So that's something that wasn't available in cellular. For example, when you're talking on the phone, it's not always reliable. Sometimes you get cut off, sometimes the voice gets garbled. That doesn't happen when you have that reliable connection.
Sometimes we hear 5G is akin to the modern day new oil. What is meant by that?
Yes, people use that. Sometimes I've heard it as electricity. Look, in general, you see that connectivity is absolutely necessary. Like, your audience right now, they're listening to this thing or watching this over cell phone or internet. So it absolutely is necessary nowadays to be connected. And that's the thing. If you sort of disconnect your cell phone today, what would we all do, right? So it's like that. I believe we're at a point where you can't live without electricity. We can't live without connectivity.
It's almost like a utility these days.
It's
ubiquitous, which is why I'd ask that question, the things we take for granted, like our Ring apps. We don't even think about it, but this technology allows it to happen. Where does EdgeQ fit in the overall 5G ecosystem?
Excellent question. Yeah, so we're where the rubber meets the road for 5G. So particularly, we're the semiconductor company. We're the chips that power 5G. We make what's called base station on a chip. So essentially, take a thing that one side is a wire, the other side is wireless, and electronics that go underneath that is what makes 5G what it is, or even 4G. So for that matter, so we make a chipset that combines 4G, 5G, and sort of integrates a bunch of components that would take lots of space and power and cost and kind of shrink it into a single chip. And that's the most unique part.
So this sounds like it could be a fundamental shift for the 5G space based on EdgeQ technology.
Yes. Traditionally, these things have been vertically integrated, like companies like Nokia, Ericsson. They've kind of integrated all of that into a box themselves. They do the software, they do the chips. we have kind of set a thing in different motions here. What we've done is we make a chip that anyone can buy and then add their value on top of it. So, and then by doing that, we've kind of taken technologies that we've known from other industries and kind of brought best of breed into this one area. So yeah, it is, we are expecting this to change the market landscape quite a bit.
So from an investment or the tech business community perspective, what's the key thesis for 5G? What should they be aware of?
So 5G, we are about not even halfway there, about halfway max, if you would say. You know, these things change every 10 years. These 6G is going to.
I was going to say, is there a 6G? Is that next?
Yeah, that's next, and it's expected to come out around 2030 timeframe. So we still have a good 7 years or so on 5G. So the evolutionary part of 5G is where we are at right now, which is just kind of, you know, getting better coverage. But the revolutionary part, as I said, where smart devices get connected, that's the much larger, and that's really the thesis of 5G, and we expect that to happen in the next 5-6 years.
Okay. Well, not too far off, really.
No,
All right. Appreciate the insight, Vinay. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.